the Berlin-based Realities United. Much of the founding principles of their company are related to an earlier practice that they were founders and members of, Kunstund, technik, which was an experimental network of designers, architects, and artists founded in 1996 in Berlin. The team of Jan and Tim Edler deal comprehensively with the staging of cultural events and in the designing of material and information spaces. Realities United does research for the development of new technologies and progressive working methods of ideas, messages, communication strategies. They employ a great variety of scientific, commercial, artistic methods and strategies, often mixing and blurring conventional disciplines in related work strategies. Since 1998, Realities United has been focusing on projects researching the integration of media technology in the realm of art and space, both for self-commissioned and commercially commissioned projects. Current projects include expertise in strategic design work for the integration of media and communication technologies for several projects. One is a recently completed Kunsthaus Graz with Peter Cook, and the new Paul Klee Museum in Bern with Paul Klee, who brings a piano. And a research project for a prototypical video communication at the Bauhaus-Dessau. The studio's work has been shown at numerous international exhibitions, lectures, and workshops. Recent university teaching positions were held at the Bauhaus Foundation in Dessau, Technical University in Berlin, and the Pasadena Arts Center College in Los Angeles. Join me please in welcoming Tim Edler.
Good evening. Okay, the first slide. I didn't know I was getting that warm introduction, and so I put the word architects behind our names, and that is one of the crucial aspects, because defining what we do and who we are has been a constant thing with us for the last years, and for a long time actually we avoided to call ourselves architects, because we felt that we departed for the bad some years ago, because we were somehow very unhappy. But this is about to change, and now I prefer to call ourselves architects, and not so often designers, architects, programmers, and spin doctors whatsoever, but also what people try to label to us. Here, thing that's been said before, the size, it's just my brother and me, the core of the office, and then there's a kind of a varying size of people depending on whatever we do. There's a variety of projects, and prior to this talk I thought about how I could make a short idea of like what we do, and I decided not to say what we do, but rather start with our approach. And currently the word we mostly use to describe our approach is that we say we are opportunistic, which means that we take up work with very many things that come along the way. And opportunistic means that usually we try to find the coincidence that potentials in space and in developing technologies, in the mentality of the people that change the culture, of course, and also special interests that come up, that we look at those areas, and at times it happens that we see that there are certain gaps where things can be overlapped and intensified and brought maybe into some sort of reaction. It sounds very theoretical, but the practical outcome is that whatever we do is not disciplinary. It's also not interdisciplinary. It's more multidisciplinary. So at times it's really about forming space or an object, but very often it's about making rather abstract concepts towards also marketing or programming software. So the products which come out of that are diverse. The first project I'm going to show is actually it was intended to be my link to today's presentation of projects on an airport and the issue of responsive environments, or this topic of responsiveness in general. This may be a very lo-fi approach to an airport. Let me show here. This guy here. Through that. So the UI. So so this is one of the projects. I think we need sound a little bit. Actually, I want to show like what it means to keep things like that in mind. Those of you who have dealt with static, it's really one of the most bizarre things to get force into the building, because the construction really is kind of a maze for the forces to travel until they ultimately get into the brick wall, which is a problem because the plugs that you can attach a thing like that have only limited amount of force they can bear. So the design is made obviously that you can attach the thing to either side of the window, so it makes it compatible to most types of building in brick buildings at least, or concrete buildings. But the important aspect about this design is that it tries to, and it achieves not to touch the building on the outside. And that's why, because anyone who would buy that thing actually, and we envision that you would go out and buy a thing like that, would be probably someone who rents a flat, and it really wouldn't make any sense to have an apparatus that would touch the building outside, because at least in Germany it would totally make it illegal, at least would bring it into the immediate reach of the landlord, saying you cannot touch my building. Whereas when you put it inside, you're in a gray zone that you can say, it's just the furniture which is inside my flat. So that makes it really complicated, and So here, obviously, it's a rendering. The principle is very simple. That like you are the first person who has a real experience compared to those who get their experience with the satellite dish. And I mean, I was talking about this coincidence of things which are necessary to make a project, and I think it's very strongly. One aspect is that it's a matter of mentality, because it's not just going out there, but in an inhabited area, this high-rise building, it's total exposure. It's really, you have to be a very showing person and allowing others to see, and it's kind of a way of showing off, really, and so that probably attracts a certain type of customer. Another project which is maybe very Berlin specific is I show this project with a slight, I don't know, sadness or disgust, because I know that we failed to sell it. We have feel so annoyed about the Berlin Love Parade for so many years, not because the type of the event in general, actually, but because of the stagnation that happened. After the thing started and got bigger, nothing happened anymore, and we felt that that a great chance was not realized. And since I think the middle of the 90s, you could see that the idea of the Love Parade to just grow and grow and grow, but ultimately reach its end, and then there would be no message. And at the same time, it was very obvious that the current setup of those, they call them floats, those big trucks, were not doing a proper job, because when you increase the thing from 1,000 people to 1 million people, and the streets are jammed, the big trucks really became the problem, because the crowd around was really being squeezed in between the trucks, and also they don't deliver proper sound. So we thought we could do two things at the same time, and that is also typical about the way we want to develop projects. We want to take several things into account, and usually we want to try to achieve several things at the same time. So we thought first we could make money by selling a super truck to a company who does want to invest money into advertising and get a result, which I doubt that we will get. And the other thing would be to give the Love Parade a new meaning. And new meaning is really, maybe it's a collage of trucks. There's nothing new happening, and I'm always talking the past tense. I think the Love Parade is now dead. It's really, it has lost this image and this attraction as being a cultural thing. Actually, since the early 90s, it has lost contact to the real cultural people in Berlin. But it showed in later years that actually when they did the broadcast for the Love Parade, that the TV companies were trying to mix material from several years to make it look more different, because nothing was really new. So we thought that should be changed, and so we made a layout for a truck system. And you must excuse now the kind of commercial layout of the film, because at that time we were trying to sell it, but to people who might have money. So.
If your equipment isn't properly set up, you might be missing some of the benefits that stereo can provide.
That's second project, which might be very Berlin related, and I'm going to show very shortly the third project, which is about Berlin, which goes further up to scale. It's bigger, and it's probably one of the most visionary projects. So far, I think maybe you've realized that the projects try to be visionary, like we want to save the love parade, we want to give it a new meaning. And by that we mean that we can imagine, or we did imagine that with the proper control of the event, it could have been a showdown of technical systems battling, for the attention of the people, sound systems which were developed each year, like mobile robots carrying sound system or sound system on backpack. Just a show which shows off creativity and technology rather than a show just trying to grow each year. So very visionary, and for both the Rheinraus and the chair and the truck, we also have this very strong pragmatic element. We really try as hard as we can to go towards, to get as close as possible to realization of the project. The following project is a bit difficult for that because it, wait, I didn't link it. So I need to look at memory. It's about Berlin, and it's a project which attempts to change the very center of Berlin. It's called Flussbad, and this is the center of Berlin. It's an island, like very many cities, and on this island was the core of the whole city. The island is defined by two river arms. The main river arm is the top one. It's where the traffic goes, the ships, and the lower arm is the river arm, which is unemployed for more than 100 years because it used to be the arm for the ships, whereas the old arm, the top arm of the river, used to be the place where they want the energy for the mills. But they changed that in 18-something, 1865 about. And so this river arm is unemployed. And there are a few things you should know about Berlin, which is that the center is really kind of a void. There's no authentic life happening there. It's a tourist area there. You have this palace or castle problem there and some administration building. Berliners don't go there. It's kind of a passing through area. And at the same time, this island is in a very densely populated, or adjacent to a very densely populated area where they have a certain lack of recreation facilities. So the idea was we take this unemployed river arm and turn it into a swimming pool. And that could be done really easily because it has a lock in the middle. So we said above the lock there will be a filtering, a reed bed filter for the river, which is really not that bad a quality. And then in the lower part, like the blue thing down here at 700 meters would be the swimming pool, which would be just the river as it is right now, but we would provide some access to the river. And that is something which is in Berlin, you couldn't hardly mention. I mean, people swimming in the holy middle of the island, and it's really terrible. But maybe you've noticed in the slide, the layout of the river has been changed in Berlin all the time, and it's almost anti-historic to not use the river in a pragmatic way. So we put in some very simple facilities. Here's a view. It's a locker room, and we make stairs instead of the hard river, the wall lining the river right now, so people can access the river, but it's not really completely redefined as a swimming pool. It's more as a possibility to also swim in a river, which is kind of off limits right now. Yeah, and So also the idea about this thing obviously is that even if I come to London, people say, oh, Berlin, how great. I mean, face the fact, Berlin has a serious problem about its image. And Berlin today relies on to attract young people being creative. And we firmly believe that a city like Berlin should also send out the signal that it's kind of pragmatic. There's a certain wit in the way it handles and works with its historic center. Besides being the practical use of this swimming pool. So you again have this kind of several objectives we want to do with one project. One side we want to go swimming. Personally, I want to go swimming. The second time I want to prevent that Berlin goes just down the hill all the way. So that's some projects from the, let's say, unrealized side of our work, and to just give you an impression on what we're working on, and but I also want of course to bring in some stuff that we did, and right now there's one thing I need to show most of all, which is Project Biggs. It's a display for Kunsthaus in art museum in Graz, which was the architecture was done by Peter Cook, Colin Fournier, Nils Jonkans, and some other people, very many other people. And here's a rendering of the Kunsthaus. I also have some pictures, which is a very extreme form, and also I think it somehow fits in the context of today with the shapes we have seen. Although it doesn't move. Maybe it should move, but it doesn't. It's quite static, and yeah, here's some it's a completely colored plexiglass and has some goggles or nozzles at the top, which let in some light, not too much. So that's how it looks really. So all the plastics pieces were formed individually. It was tremendous effort to get this thing done. So, but how did we get into this thing? Another view. It's really alien. They call it friendly alien. At least, yeah, I think it's friendly, but it's also alien. But I like that. But the way we got into this entire project, it's almost like we were not asked to do what we did in the end. We were asked to do something different. What we wanted to do is to do something called technical Gestalt for the Kunsthaus, which is one of our main motives. One of the red lines I want to maintain this talk is about talking about technology. And there had been a small pitch in the Kunsthaus history where we have to understand the Kunsthaus, the people in Graz had discussed this issue about 30 years, at least. 30 years, and then there was another 70 years before that they wanted to have this museum. And during that time there had been so many ideas accumulated, like what the Kunsthaus could be. And there were theories about should be a building of new media and art, and really like top of what state of the art is. And after the architects won with their design, they were extremely busy trying to get their promise into real architecture, which was a tough job. And so in the middle of the process, someone asked, what about this idea of being really advanced in media technology? What about that? And so everyone said, well, the architects have to find an answer. But the architects said, we are totally busy, we can't. So they said, we need some outside advisors, and that our concern, that was us. So the idea was to create a concept of how to somehow mix art building, new media technologies. And honestly, I mean, the main reason, if you know how those projects work, is that they don't have a positive idea like what they want. It's more like, we cannot afford to miss out, to not make it, someone has to take responsibility. So that was us. And so they said, create this strategy, and we gave them a book about ideas. The thing what they expected was a number of at least a shopping list, at least, like what VCRs and beamers to buy, where to put them, what cables to put in the building, so it's kind of fit for the future, for new media installations to come and so on. And so we made a catalog, a lot of things, included that because they were asked for, but also a variety of other ideas. And one was that we really felt that we should work in the aspect of how this building communicates to the outside. Because at that time, the initial idea of the architecture was that this bluish skin should be a membrane that provides information about the building. And during the planning process, for a variety of reasons, they cut out this transparency. So it was just a blue skin with an ordinary, untransparent skin behind. So it was just a facade. And we felt that there was a certain discrepancy between the architectural idea and what was happening. And so we thought, how can we transform this building to some display? And so we went obviously through all the available technologies, which are all this LED and CRT and whatsoever stuff, and we found it not appropriate for a variety of reasons. I'll come later to that. So that's the layout. It's fluorescent light rings, very standard type. Really the thing that has been around for years. It's almost out of production now. This is thick fluorescent light rings. At least in Germany, it used to be the standard grandma kitchen thing. And so here are some images from the construction site where you see the lamps mounted before they put the plexiglass on top. Okay, so here, that's a building view with a plexiglass kind of almost mounted. You see that we had a really hard time to direct the lamps so they're all kind of straight. So and then doing that, we saw then there's a real meaning to this plexiglass thing because now it's a display. So here also a view of before the plexiglass came on. So that's a final view, although here some of the lamps are still not working. We had a hard time because the lamps didn't have any protection. It's just a glass lamp. And obviously it was difficult to coordinate that with the fact that people were coming with 2 by 3 meter plexiglass sheets on a crane, putting them on top, and then they got smashed. So coming back to the concept, we thought the idea would be that this Kunsthaus has a very low resolution display and only being able to show very low resolution stuff, like maybe an icon. You have an exhibition and the Kunsthaus shows an icon, like the A, and that A stays there for some month. And it's really about that we also got carried away, I admit that, because then when we researched, we thought, oh, it's also possible to dim those lamps, right? So we can make grayscale images. And then also we found out that we could animate them. And actually there's one company we realized, we found out that is able to control fluorescent light rings at acceptable speeds, including turning them off. That's a trick. Many people can control fluorescent light, but that was kind of a minimum, which is only 1% of the electricity, but you feel it's like 10% of the land. So, but there's none. Swiss companies, Swiss obviously, it could do it. Or a hard struggle to get the budget. I mean, needless to say that we came in at the time of the project when they were trying to find points to save money, and when we came and said, why don't you integrate an extra project? Wouldn't it be nice? They were not really screening and happy. So this short film. It shows like it's a collection of things that we have done in the initial phase of the. yeah, what it's really I think it's really interesting that we made with this project, because one of the interesting things that usually don't occur is that you have two design teams doing the same thing. I mean, we didn't only come and wanted more money, which was not planned, but we also occupied the main phase of the building, which is very difficult. I mean, I think many architects would be, it would go beyond their powers to let that happen. I would say, put it that way, you know, that someone comes doing the construction process, says, I take your design and I do a redefinition of what it means. So I think that's something talk among designers. The concept using those fluorescent light is really something which is not only born out of the idea to make something cheap. There were several reasons why we thought, even if we had the money, we would be very careful to do a high-end media facade for the Kunsthaus. One of the reasons is, I mean, obviously the Kunsthaus would never have the money, and even if they had the money to buy it, they would have to get so much commercial users in to finance afterwards. That was kind of ruled out, except if we would have settled for a small monitor, like a TV attached to the building. And we totally didn't want that to happen. We wanted that the building itself shows the images. So therefore, it's just large area. It's about 100 times bigger than the area we would have got with a conventional high-end system, the same costs. And so it's kind of a comparison what a conventional system would have been in size for the same money. And we just thought it would be pointless to attach a monitor to the museum, because either we as architects accomplish to get the architecture to convey something itself, or we leave it. What we are not going to do is to use the architecture as a scaffold for TV, which is glued on. That's the reality usually. So the other thing is, like here, the other thing is that it's really about the self-esteem as architects. That, rather than buying what's around, maybe we should think about what scale it should be in which we communicate. Obviously, here we have chosen a scale which is that when you're far away, the images make sense, but when you get closer, it's totally abstract. You know, this blinking lights above you, and you definitely have the feeling that the building is somehow also communicating over your head. So it's past its kind of own idea of how far it wants to communicate. And we think it's really important that scale is a very fundamental aspect of architecture, that we keep that in mind when we do media facades too. The other thing why we went for this fluorescent light thing is that if you bring in the latest technology, you always have the problem that it looks so dodgy after 5 years, right? And or if you're a bank, you can finance to exchange technology every 3 years, but if you're not, you will have to deal with technology that ages and doesn't work maybe, and definitely doesn't look high-end after a few years. So we chose the opposite approach. We took a lamp which is old. It's a classic. It cannot age actually, and so we made sure that the lamp is shown in its pure sense. So it's just the tube which is visible behind the plexiglass, and we avoided we avoided all temptations and all force from the client to buy a standard lamp casing, because we expected that to get dirty and blur, and then we would have lamps. But we wanted people to see it's just the fluorescent light rings that we already know. Was some effort, but interestingly in the end, or funnily in the end, if we would have gone the way of the client and would have bought lamp casings, we would have probably lost 30% of the lamps because the tolerances in the building wouldn't have allowed us to fit them in. So sometimes they're really kind of sneaked in between and they're only that high. So it kind of saves the probably that we were stubborn at this point. But also one aspect about choosing something which is a different format is that you force also people to think about what they do with the facade. If you glue a TV to a facade, you will probably get TV images on the facade. And here, that's one of a work done by two Portuguese architects, Jorge Pereira and Nuno Rosado, when I was at the Bauhaus. They were just running mentally through the idea was, if displays are dirt cheap, if you can cover all the surfaces, what is going to happen to the city? And I found it really interesting because it, in a way, was very, very radical, and it also showed the problem that as soon as you get a surface that can be changed, most of the people are totally clueless what to do with it. I mean, except advertising, obviously. The first reflex is, well, yeah, we can change it. Well, maybe it's interactive. Maybe someone comes along, for instance, and by coming along, the facade changes. And which is interesting because usually architects, if you say, if you design a facade, and I take a spray can and put something in the facade, I'm in trouble. But as soon as architects design something like a real facade, they are in the earliest statements, it's about, it could be interactive. People that are on the streets, they take out their phone, they put something on the facade, or the color changes when I approach it, and so on. And the problem behind that is that we do not have a clue what to do with this changing facade. And I firmly want to hold this movement, which usually is about, if you have a media facade, either we give it to the commercial people that do advertising on it, or we give it to the people who are on the street, and we kind of give the entire facade to the exterior room as a playground. I would say we can do that, but I would feel much better if we as architects would know what we would do with it if we had it. It's really easy to kind of give that task to someone else, but I'd rather see what would architects do with it. And I think there's also some justification, and I think that it's also linked to the presentation of the produce today, that as soon as buildings start to change, today we have very many buildings that were changing physically in form and size, but here it's also about a changing look of the building. It is something that could be architecture if you just say, well, usually architecture is about designing something which changes every 20 years, but maybe architecture is also something which changes 20 times a second. I don't really see why this is not architecture, the look of a changeable building. And well, yeah, for us building it is just phase one. Phase two would be using it as a laboratory to develop something as a language, how a Kunsthaus art building communicates with the city. And honestly, here we have some problems also, because already there has been some really bad advertising on the facade, which is really bad, because you can play advertising on the facade if you made a very strong point what the initial use would be. And something that we would imagine is that rather than playing films or images, it could be very subtle. It could be just by the change of the light, it announces how long it takes until the next exhibition starts, and so on. It's more something that you would read by peripheral. Like you drive your car past the Kunsthaus and you somehow have information on the state of the Kunsthaus rather than standing in front and watching a movie, some animation telling you that the next exhibition is coming. It's really a cultural problem. It's what I want to address. It's a cultural problem that that I think architects need to develop a culture for the changing facade or the changing building. It's really their job or our job to do that. If not, it's really taken out of our hands and it will be a change. So that's maybe a closing statement to architecture. That's also the reason why we try to be very expensive working as architects, trying to enter fields of technology, because we think that that the means have to change with the times. That like what you could do in former times with work with material, now you have to use electronic media to get the same effect. So for the architects, I think I only see two futures. One is we define architecture as dealing with space, material space, and everything, which then will be a trade with the shrinking relevance, or if we want to maintain the relevance of architecture, we need to infiltrate technology. For instance, technology, but some other areas as well, transportation, marketing. The entire aspect of, I don't know, the English term is wertschätzung, appreciation. Like what is important, what is valuable. It's also things that we cannot delegate to other people. It's something we have to integrate in architecture if we want to maintain the same relevance. That's our point. So one of the difficult aspects later on was trying to tell them, I mean, through the entire project, we always had to tell them what we should do for them. Like the next contract is going to be for that and that. We thought that if we want to get interesting people to work with this facade, it's going to be really a problem. Like if that's a computer screen, that's about the size of the film that you play on the facade. It's really tiny, and it's really difficult to imagine a film 56 by 25 pixels. It's about the size of an icon. How that would look on a facade that's 40 meters long and 20 meters high, and it's also curved and three-dimensional. And so. Started to design software for it. Actually, there are two aspects of the software. One aspect is that it allows you to make shows. So it allows you to program what happens in the facade for several hours. It's a software which looks like a video editor program with several tracks and can put in films. And this software is a 3D simulation software for the building. So what it does, it's actually also, I saw people doing Max, it's also Max jitter program. And it allows you to take films, and it reads anything that QuickTime reads. It puts it on the facade, so you can play on the screens. And so here you can move around in graphs and trying to understand how that image would look. And if I had a faster computer, it would probably play more smoothly. So it's really, in the end, it's really like a 3D shooter. You can move through it and find angles to test actually when you program things in your studio, whether they would really work on the facade. And that's really all that what I was just mentioning is going the direction of that our engagement does not stop with building that machinery, but also thinking about how people can work with it. So I see a shift from a one-time engagement and doing like, well, that's the architecture, it's done, to towards more continuous relation with what's happening. I think the same probably would happen as soon as we get this movable structures of airports like Rotterdam. That's really about we have to break this idea that architecture is built and then it's done. It's really about caring for it. Okay, so much about this big facade. I think we come from very practical projects now to something which is just tries to it's I mean the ultimate goal for us was to make a laboratory for the media facade as such. I mean we don't see that in this world there's much space for people interested to experiment with facades that can change, because the commercial facades are untouchable except for a few exceptions like art events, and so we thought that in Graz that could be a laboratory. And actually this entire aspect of how technology is developed, or technology genesis, if you want to say so, has been in our work too. Come to some more abstract projects. There's one project, I mean, I really shouldn't show that because it's not, I didn't bring the right film, but it was commissioned by the Bauhaus, and usually when I try to explain the concept to Omar Akbar, the head of the Bauhaus, for 45 minutes, he said, I don't understand. And I had several times the experience that people don't understand, but still I would try. It's about the relation, and this comes to the maybe final aspect of talking about technology, that we think that technology is not only a field that we aggressively enter because we think it's something that comes handy because it's so influential, but also because we firmly believe that technology is a field where the influence does not stand in the right relation to the concepts behind. So it's a certain naivety in technology laboratories to how technology should be developed, and I think architecture as a trade is a very advanced procedure, tool to handle these complex things, and to handle things which are complex, which are technical and culturally relevant. And I think technology today is exactly there. It's influential, it's technical, and it has an extreme cultural impact. And that means ultimately that for us, technology is not something we primarily associate with function, but technology is something that we associate with design. And technology is something like brick. That if I want this brick wall red, it's because I want it as a designer. It's not that there's a function that forces me to. And there's a mental shift that needs to happen to see technology what it is as something that's in the environment, and it's very personal, very emotional. So here in this project it was about the picture telephone actually, and it's a design, it's an idea that the big telephone companies want to sell to the world since the 60s. I think it's one of the earliest prototypes. And now I think currently they're trying to sell it again with those mobile phones. Again, it's the idea that the telephone and use the image. When you go in this entire research of video mediated communication, you probably get the impression that that's not really going to be the strong point. It's really about what we found interesting is that maybe in the future, as we get more dispersed and separated, that there might be the chance that we still have something like a social space that is constituted by using technology. It's also that shift from material space to maybe actual space here happening. And so the idea is how can we bring video images to people in their home environment that they would like it. So here, and it was maybe a very provocative approach for the Bauhaus, and it was, we said, we are going to create a device that uses images which come from like CCTV, is like constant images, totally boring stuff. That's more like a window to a different room, maybe a person that you want to be with, to have something like a social context. But we found that the usual CCTV stuff is nothing that you would have in your apartment. And it's really about the slide before. They cannot convince people to use a picture telephone because it's a mass thing, you know, all these mass things, mass communication media. It's really difficult to get that started, right? Because the first person that buys it has no use in it. So here it was really to make that wall where this video, where this video's images come in, so attractive that you want to have it whether you know what use it is or not. Okay? So it's like totally trying to get this early adopters in the boat. And so the idea was in the end that you in your apartment you have your personal music, and the music is used by a software to convert the incoming video images in some sort of a music video clip. And I'm really sorry that the film is kind of really where is it now? Really coming from the aesthetic side of technology rather than well, now if you have the video, or you can call your grandmother and all this stuff, we know all that stuff. But we don't know how can we make it convincing enough that we want it. So I think that should be enough. It's 1 hour, and I hope that you've got an impression on the variety of things we work on. I think it's needless to say that we saw like the last 2 projects that were paid permission. There's so many other projects which we do, especially by looking at this fields of potential. We work against the structures that business organize, because sometimes we come to people and say, you should do this and that, but they never thought about it. That's not how business works, and there's so much communication we have to do to convince people to do something. But on the other hand, we firmly believe that it's also one about the trade of architecture that someone has to develop ideas, and obviously if the machinery, the business world is not capable, it's us, for instance, that have to come up with ideas, and even if it's not straight in line with market structures. So thank you very much. Pardon? What? Good question. Yeah, it used to be a tremendous problem, because they said once the plexiglass is mounted, you cannot touch it anymore. So the entire scenarios we ran through were like, is it going to last 5 years? And then we exchange everything. So we try to calculate how many lengths would be broke after 5 years. But luckily, during the construction process, we found out it's really easy to open the facade a little bit and kind of Without really taking down the plexiglass sheet, you can exchange lamps. Luckily, really. Because, I mean, the actual decision to make this project was done less than 1 year before the completion of the project, which meant, because bureaucracy, blah, 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 before that, no one could make any decision towards, for instance, giving us more space to put the lamps in, or providing any mechanism to open the facade. You could not invest money into developing those details because no one knew if the facade is going to be equipped with this lamp. So we dealt with a space which was actually not designed for the lamps. It was just fit in there. Oh, it's no, we didn't make any agreement, and it's really a tricky thing. I mean, in general, we do have a problem defining what this project is. And if you read press, I mean, there has been so many publications which I would say are specifically like magazine covers which show bigs, which we do not show the Kunsthaus. And still, inside, the journalists don't get that it's really two projects merge, because it's not in this binomial relation between architecture and then there's maybe monument. You can say architecture and artwork. And that's one aspect. The other aspect really said, we want the thing to be a laboratory, which meant we need to open it to the ideas of other people. And we created the software for other people to work with. And so we thought it doesn't make any sense to I mean, either you want other people to work with or not. You cannot make so many agreements like it can only be this or that. You know, it's a thing of trust. And openly, yes, I'm a little bit disappointed that the Kunsthaus Graz is I think they are missing a chance. What they're doing with the facade right now is they're giving it to artists, which sounds good first time. Like artists do some projects on it, but I think actually they should have a concept on what they want artists to do with the facade. I mean, it's just now that they ask people who do computer screen stuff, and they say, well, you work with computers, now please work on the facade. I think it's, but I think you understand that the thin line trying to communicate why they shouldn't play art, but should play art, make a laboratory from the facade is just so, people don't know what we are talking about. So in a way, we have to realize that we have lost control. That's what we think should happen. I think if you take this Kunsthaus, I mean, the format of the Kunstmuseum is quite known. You know, the Kunstmuseum it's in Southeast Europe, so it's, if you want to be very cynical, it's a branch of the global art network. It's going to show art shows which are put together somewhere else at their own show. But what this facade could be is totally open. It could be between showing today ticket only three euros up to really a focus of interesting designers, architects and artists around the world trying to at least develop the first vocabularies, the first sentences in a language that conveys maybe something about the Kunsthaus. I mean, I'm really talking about this old-fashioned idea that the facade could be something that conveys meaning, like that transports an idea of what happens inside. But this has to be done very conceptually and very abstractly. And this is like the high-end laboratory, and the low-end is like advertising or showing simple messages. And in between there are many steps, and we don't see that they're conceptually aware where they're landing, which is good. But I don't know whether this got through tonight, that we really think that as a trade of architects we need to go that direction, and to understand that we need to create concepts for changing structure rather than only for static structure. I mean, in German it's very easy. In German, real estate means immobilie. It means not moving, you know, and that's wrong. You know, it's really about moving, but we need to create concepts. And I know that's not easy. Architecture, static architecture had 5,000 or 7,000 years to develop. And now suddenly, in an instant, we say now please make an aesthetic and holistic approach for something that moves. It's a difficult task. But it's important that someone starts with it. You mean the physical or technical constraints? Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's true. I think for many artists, it can be repellent if they think the facade is already an installation, right? And they're just, playing the installation. So the art would be to make them understand that it's maybe a screen, an open thing like a computer screen. On a computer screen, artists usually don't say, well, I cannot live with that amount of lines. They can go inside that logic. And so that's one aspect. And about, I'm not so negative about curating it. I mean, it's really about curating, like. Yeah. But I mean, that's usually, if you look at artists, it's always a dilemma of like how much guidance or concept can you provide without squashing their creativity. That's true. You mean Haus des Lehrers? Yeah. House of the teacher. Yeah. I mean, for us, we made the concept before this came out, but I think this entire movement of turning architecture and display itself is totally on the better side of the development. I mean, it's really one way of dealing with or at least taking into account that architecture has a certain structural grid, rather than gluing a TV in front of the architecture and degrading it to become just a scaffolding for the TV. I think there's a lot to come. Currently, there's in Japan a building that's a high-rise building that shows the level of a radio station, I think, going on. And personally, and the idea I like the best example I've seen so far is the video I can't get you off my mind. It was kind of, I mean, it's a backdrop. There's something happening totally abstract going across several high-rise buildings. I think it's a very valuable approach, and also we are trying to go that direction because buildings also offer the possibility to move away from the facade, to move inside, could be three-dimensional. But I mean, talking about content, the project that the Chaos Computer Club did in Alexanderplatz was very much dominated by the thing, we did it, we can do it, we have software, and content-wise it was not a revelation. So it was not their main focus. But it's very important, the general direction of really understanding that architecture and media communicate over the structural, the scale issue. It's, I think, very valuable. Pardon? No, I mean, I think that that's true. That I mean, we are trying to provide ideas, but we just don't see right now the interest, the willingness to. I mean, it's more the idea. I mean, to be really bad, maybe we can earn some money with the facade. You know, we play some advertising, and then we try to get some artists on it who should not cost so much money. Like the artists that cost much money go inside the building. Of course, we think it's the wrong approach. We should invest more money. Was heißt Prägung? But in the uncoined German equivalent, like to coin it, we don't know, like to give it the right drift where it's going. I would right now get in interesting, very well-known artists to work with the facade and invest more money there than inside the Kunsthaus personally. But their approach is to test it and let's see what happens for the next years. And I don't know what happens if they play it for 3 years and they have not come to the point that artists feel really attractive. I can think that some artists might be repelled by the idea that their artwork might be complemented by some stupid advertising. Maybe they don't appear on the surface. It's a little bit an hygienic aspect. Like the Kunsthaus, there were certain things they would never do with the space. Outside, they don't feel that constraint. Anything goes outside. Inside, you would not have the Weihnachtsmarkt, Christmas market, happening inside the Kunsthaus. On the facade, it's an object, and it's in its own. Thank you very much.